What's up, guys, and welcome to the second part of the Siege of Orgrimmar LFR guide. This is the Gates of Retribution, which includes the four more bosses, and in these four bosses we will have Galakras, the Iron Juggernaut, Korkron Dark Shaman, and General Nazgrim. This tier is very, very long. This LFR is by far the longest LFR that they've done so far. And let's get right into it. There is quite a bit to go over here, so let's do it. The first fight is Galakras, and obviously this fight is waves and waves of adds in LFR. No matter really how quickly you kill them, they're obviously on a spawn timer pretty much, so you will have a lot of downtime if your group has any kind of gear whatsoever. The biggest thing that you do need to be aware of is in LFR you do still have to send groups up to the towers. So you'll see towers on the left or right hand side. Make sure you have a tank, a healer, 3, 4, 5 DPS to go up on each side. You do one side at a time. So once the demo goes down, the designated group goes up the left hand side, goes up the tower, kills all the adds, kills the big add on top. One guy stays up there, stays in the gun, shoots everything down, and then it's rinse and repeat to the other side with the rest of the group. The biggest thing that you need to understand about this fight in LFR is that there's really not much that's going to kill you. The main things that can possibly kill you is if you're literally just standing in poison the entire time. That may kill you, but you almost have to move out of the way. You know, you really have to try to die in LFR in this fight. There's really just not a lot of damage going out in this fight. It's just a very long, it's an endurance fight more than anything else. So you're just killing waves of adds, and then you're killing a mini-boss, and then you're killing a demolisher. You're sending your group up to the left, they do their thing. The group downstairs will then keep killing waves of adds. A second mini-boss will come out. He'll pull you in. You should move out of it, but if you have a healing cooldown, you really don't need to in LFR. But you should move out of it if you'd like to avoid the damage. And then you kill a second demolisher. The group goes up on the right-hand side, and you're pretty much you have your gunmen up there in the guns. All the adds are dead. You're shooting down Galakras. As soon as Galakras comes down, you stack up and just start burning the boss. I tried to see how high I could get my stacks and see what the damage was in the last phase. I got my stacks up to 5 and was still barely taking any ticking damage. So keep that in mind, that you really don't have much to heal in this fight at all. So even when you get in, if one of your healers does have a good DPS off spec, you'll probably be fine. The only time you're really short on heals is when the tower group is going up on either side. Then you may run into a little bit of healing difficulty, but again, because there's not many mechanics that can kill you, besides maybe aggroing a mob, I would recommend just, switching one of your heals to DPS for this fight to help with all the adds, especially if your DPS is a little bit lower. But if you can do all that stuff, guys, you can get this one, and we'll see you at the start of the next fight. Alright, in the second fight, we're going to have the Iron Juggernaut. And this is the big mechanical scorpion, which in LFR doesn't do shit. pretty much, guys, this is going to be a patchwork style fight for you in LFR. We did a couple testing things on this. You'll see me stand in certain abilities from time to time without any cooldowns and with cooldowns. And again, mainly I'm trying to show you guys that these abilities really won't hurt you too much in LFR. However, this fight is one of those compound damaging fights. So getting hit by one ability may not kill you. However, getting hit by several abilities will. What you need to understand about these mines that you see out right now is if you click on them, they will blast you up in the air and do a lot of damage. So if you have a cooldown, a personal cooldown like Greater Invis, Dark Bargain, Deterrence, Pain Suppression, anything like that, go ahead and pop that and then grab these mines. As if you do not grab the mines, they will explode and deal damage to the entire raid. Now we did let one explode, which you can see later on in the video. It didn't do too much damage. It didn't kill us, but as I said, the problem with this fight is compounding damage. So if you get hit by more than one ability at a time, then you will die. Yes, even in an LFR. So what you need to really focus on in this fight is literally just single targeting the boss. He has 2 phases, and what you're going to be doing in each of these phases is obviously phase 1, don't stand in the big red circles, and get the mines. That's pretty much it. Phase 2, if you get the laser beam on you, do not kite it through the oil, and then you're going to get knocked back. So try to find a wall to stand against. If you pretty much all just stand in the entrance when he does his shock pulse and knocks everybody back, it's pretty much, you're still in range, you're fine, you won't lose that much time DPSing, and you just rinse and repeat these 2 phases until the boss is dead. There's literally not much else you need to worry about. Obviously the boss faces away from the raid, because obviously he does a frontal cone, so be aware of that. The bore drill, again, in LFR does not do practically any damage. As you'll see right here, phase 2 is coming out. This is supposed to be the heavy damage phase. There definitely is some damage that goes out, and again, the only time that anything's going to kill you in this phase is if you get blown away too far with the shock pulse, and then it takes you too long to run back. Okay, so if you stand in the entrance, you're fine, you won't have to worry about that. Even if you stand in the tower, again, doesn't do a ton of damage, but combine that with, you know, everything else going on, you can kill yourself. So keep in mind that you want to kite the laser, the big laser that we just saw on the boomkin right there. We want to kite that away from the oil. If it hits the oil, it does damage to the entire raid, which isn't good, because again, we're compounding damage, and that's how people die. Literally, that's all you need to worry about in this fight in LFR, guys. If you are curious about any more of the normal mode abilities that this boss has, I do make normal mode guides as well, so go ahead and check out my channel, and you can take a little bit more in-depth look at any of these bosses on normal difficulty, or some of them are already up on heroic difficulty for you as well. So go ahead and take a look at those. And we will let the rest of this video play out, and we'll see you on the next boss. Alright, now it's time for the third boss in this LFR instance, which is the Korkron Dark Shaman. This fight on LFR, again, is going to come down to really your tanks, and whether, you know, this is an LFR fight again, guys, where if you have good tanks, it's going to be extremely easy. If you don't, this is going to be insane. As you'll see here, I did test out several different abilities to see how many of them would kill you, how long you had to stand in them to kill you. So go ahead and take a look at those while we're killing the boss. But for the most part, what you need to understand about this fight is there's 2 dogs and 2 big bosses. You obviously want to burn down the dogs, but with the amount of health that they have, pretty much cleave damage will take them down in an appropriate time. You can single target them down if you'd like. It does help out on tank damage once they are dead, obviously, so getting those down the quicker is going to be better for your tanks. So what you need to do here is there's the strategy that these 2 tanks were using, if you want to call it that, was pretty much just try to keep them semi-together and rotate them throughout the room. The biggest thing in this fight that you want to do is, as a tank, you want to make sure that either you're going clockwise or counterclockwise with the bosses, so that way their abilities are typically spawning, and then you move them as they spawn and try to use the whole room. That green slime puddle, don't stand in it. If you're chosen to get the green slime puddle, stand back into things that have already happened. So try to keep the area where your tanks are going free. These slime pools that spawn do need to be killed, They need to be AoE down immediately. They do damage once they die to people who are in range, so don't just jump in there and start, if you're a mage, don't jump in and start arcane explosioning when all the ads are about to die, or you may have a bad time. The tornadoes, obviously you can stand about 4 or 5 ticks before you die without a cooldown. You can probably do 6 or 7 with a cooldown, so keep that in mind, is that ability doesn't hit very hard in LFR mode. This ability, however, trucks you in LFR mode, and I don't know why. You'll see me run through these little fire guys that are on the ground, and it actually does kill me in about 2 ticks. The meteor that comes down, again, don't stand in the big red part of the room, but if you see right here, see, this guy just instantly pretty much 2-shot me. So those guys do still hurt, so make sure that you're not getting smacked by those guys. Watch where you're standing. Don't stand in purple, don't stand in green, don't get smacked in the face by the fire guys. Burn down the ads and kill the shaman. At 25%, the shaman will lust, so a lot of people will burn lust at the start of this fight to get the dogs down. If you do not use it at the start of the fight, I would recommend saving it till about 25% left so you can really burn through the rest of the fight. As you see, I'll get up here and we'll finish out the fight. But it wasn't too bad. None of the other abilities were real detrimental as you see me test them out throughout this encounter. But guys, again, if you want to see any of the normal mode abilities explained a little bit more in detail, or how we killed it in normal mode, and kind of the strategy we used, maybe carry that over to your LFR a little bit more to be a little bit more knowledgeable, go ahead and check out the normal mode guide. Otherwise, for LFR, pretty much for this fight, all you need to know is don't stand in stuff and do as much cleave damage and AoE damage as you possibly can. Ads are priority. We're not standing in anything. We're not getting trucked by the little orange elementals, and we're trying to not kite the fire where the tanks are going. If you can do those things, you can get this boss down, and I'll catch up with you on the next boss. Alright, and here's the final fight in this LFR, and this is General Nazgrim. General Nazgrim has a few abilities you need to watch out for in LFR. He will, whenever he fills up with energy, he throws a spinning axe in the room. Now, normally in normal and heroic mode, this is a very detrimental ability, as the axes can pile up very quickly. In LFR, we actually found that they do despawn, so you could push him in defensive stance and really start pumping out damage into him, but because you're doing such reduced damage, it's probably not worth it. You're probably better off just waiting for the ads to come out. But in LFR, really, this phase, or this fight, consists of a couple different phases. He has 3 different stances: battle, berserk, and defensive. You want to DPS the boss in battle and berserk. You want to stop DPSing the boss in defensive. There are ads that periodically come out of the room. These are definitely priority in LFR. You need to kill them immediately. You also need to be aware that the boss will drop banners, and the war shaman will drop healing totems. These need to be DPS'd immediately. They will heal the boss and the ads very, very quickly, or the banner will do a ton of damage very, very quickly to your tanks. So burning down the banners, burning down the totems, and then burning down the shaman, and then the rest of the ads, and then the boss is really your DPS order. So pretty much the boss is the last priority. If there's an ad up, that's the priority over the boss. The only time this would change is if the boss is about to go into defensive, maybe pumping out a little bit more damage into him won't hurt you. But once he is in defensive stance, you do really want to stop DPS, and there's really no need to DPS at this point. It's just going to cause more harm than good, especially in an LFR group if you're a little under-geared. But how we handled this fight in LFR was, again, we just kind of tanked him at the front of the room, burned down the ads, burned down the boss, didn't DPS him in defensive stance, and that's pretty much all you need to see. You'll see me test out a few of the abilities, like his heroic leap, how much damage they're doing with war banners up. You can kind of check and see the tank's health as those are out, and kind of see the differences there. Do be aware that the assassins, don't turn your back to them. If you're chosen with an assassin's mark, you know, and you see an assassin on you, do not turn your back and run from him. He will stab you in the back, and it will just destroy your health bar. So do be aware of that will hurt you. The axes that float around the room once he's at 100 energy, those will do about, you know, it takes about 4 or 5 ticks before you will die to those. So if you see one chasing you or coming at you, be aware that you do need to move out of it. But if you can do those things, again, you'll be able to get through this fight. This is the last fight of the LFR. And thank you for watching. Again, if you have any other questions about any of the normal modes, I do have those guides up for you, so if you want to take a little bit more in-depth look. My job here is just to cover the differences in LFR and what the LFR people need to understand about these fights. Hope you guys like this one. Make sure that you let me know if there's anything that I missed, or let me know if there's anything you'd like to see in the next LFR video, and we will see you next time.